And so as I understood it, you testified yesterday that you'd like to have another $1 billion added on to the FY25 level to do the additional work you'd like to do on drug interdiction, fentanyl in general, and anti-terrorism. And today you gave us a budget that requests cutting $500 million. Which is it? Do you want us to, what are you asking of this committee? To add funds, add $1 billion, or to cut $500 million?
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the opportunity. What I'm asking for is that with more, I can simply do more. And I was giving examples of what more I could do. I can do the mission and am in support of the budget here. And I'm working with appropriators and you to fill the gaps.
So you support the budget presented that cuts $500 million, but you also support us adding $1 billion should we choose to do that?
Well, I can't not support the budget as proposed because then I would be supporting no budget.
I would ask you to immediately provide that information, Director Patel, to the committee. That's exactly the kind of information that we usually get as part of the justification. Can you, since you've identified those cuts, can you make sure we get them right away?
As soon as I can give them to you, sir.
Well, when can't you give them today? Why can you not give them to us today? You say you identified them.
I've said I've identified most of them as soon as I'm done. And
no, okay, I wrote it down. Said you identified it already.
The FBI director came to a Senate budget hearing to defend a $545 million cut to his own agency. He said he had already identified where those cuts would come from. When the ranking member asked him to share that information with the committee that controls his budget, he said he would work as diligently as he could. Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland is the ranking member of this subcommittee. He had brought the entire government's budget request to this hearing. It was 46 pages. The section on the FBI was 1 paragraph. Here is the full exchange.
Look, this is supposed to be a hearing on the FBI's fiscal year 2006 budget request. We're in a difficult spot because we really don't have much of a budget request. What I'm holding up, 46 pages, is the entire budget request of the Trump administration for the entire government. And you can see we've got a short paragraph here on the FBI. That's all we've got. Compared to the fiscal year 2025 budget, which was submitted. So I would say to my colleagues that we're having a hearing on the fiscal year 26 budget request without an actual request, except for 1 paragraph, which, as the chairman noted, proposes a $545 million cut to the FBI salaries and expenses account. It doesn't tell us what missions the FBI proposes to reduce or to eliminate. It doesn't give us any sense of what it means for the safety and security of the American people. We're left to guess at that. I would say normally we also get for the FBI alone this information, the congressional budget justification, and we don't have any of this year. We have one paragraph, Mr. Director. And as the chairman noted, the FBI has experienced significant cuts. In fiscal year 24, under the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the CJS bill overall was cut by $2.5 billion. It resulted in a cut of 1,025 positions at the FBI. This was before your time, Mr. Director. And under the fiscal year 25 continuing resolution, deep cuts continue, and I understand that the FBI will be cutting another 875 personnel just this year because of the fiscal year 25 request. Mr. Director, you testified yesterday that the President's fiscal year 26 proposal, which is this paragraph before us, would result in a cut of another 1,300 positions. My view is that those will likely do a lot of harm to the FBI's overall mission. I do want to briefly touch on another issue of great importance to the mission of the FBI and the men and women who serve there, and that's the need for a modern, secure campus that meets their security needs and the mission. This is an effort that goes way back, well over a decade. look no further than the 2011 and 2017 GAO reports on this issue, and if it was an urgent priority then, a new headquarters could not be more urgent now. The FBI is in desperate need of a new headquarters. The current building is literally crumbling with nets in place to catch falling concrete and debris. Mr. Director, I'm glad from your testimony yesterday that you have taken notice of this, and you stated in that testimony that the Hoover building, quote, is simply unsafe for the FBI personnel. I mean, this is a budget hearing with missing documents. I mean, we don't have a budget for the FBI before us. We have this one little paragraph. We don't have the spending plans for the remainder of this fiscal year 2025. I did think I heard you say, Mr. Director, in response to an earlier question from Senator Moran, with respect to the $545 million cuts, that you had identified those cuts. Did I hear you correctly about that?
The $545 million cuts?
Yeah.
Those are largely
I just, have you identified what those, how you would achieve those cuts?
I think for the most part we have, Senator.
Okay, so that, I would ask you to immediately provide that information, Director Patel, to the committee. That's exactly the kind of information that we usually get as part of the justification. Can you, since you've identified those cuts, can you make sure we get them right away?
As soon as I can get them to you, sir.
Well, when can't you give them today? Why can you not give them to us today? You say you identified them.
I've said I've identified most of them as soon as I'm done. And
No, okay, I you wrote it down. Said you identified it already. So you're not finished identifying the five. I'm just.
Yeah, I said I've
I'm just
identified.
trying to understand the situation. You have to understand that this committee is a budget committee, appropriations committee. We don't have any of the documents. You said in response to a question that you identified the
Most of them. Once I'm done, I'll get them to you.
Okay. When you expect to be done?
We will work as diligently as we can, sir.
All right. Let me, I do want to follow up on some of the questions that Senator Merkley raised on the Constitution, because as you know, in response to a question that the President was asked about whether he had to comply with the Constitution, he said, and I'm quoting, "I don't know." So it is important that we reaffirm everybody's obligation to comply with the Constitution, and I appreciate that was your answer broadly to the question asked by Senator Merkley. But you don't dispute the fact, and I'm quoting here from the Supreme Court opinion in Reno v. Flores, where Justice Scalia wrote, and I quote, "It is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in deportation proceedings," end of quote. You don't
I don't dispute that.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure, for the record, we understand that, because as you well know, the federal courts have found that there have been gross violations to date of many individuals' due process rights. Let me ask you a question about Judge Dugan, and I'm not going to get into about Judge Dugan, who was arrested, taken out in handcuffs from her courtroom. You agree that as director of the FBI, you should lead by example, right?
Try to.
Okay. Well, there's a confidentiality and media contacts policy within the Department of Justice guidelines that says specifically that DOJ personnel should not voluntarily disclose a photograph of a defendant unless it serves a law enforcement function, or unless the photograph is already part of the public record in the case. Clearly, Judge Dugan's photograph was not already part of the public record in the case. So it appears that what you did was a violation of that policy, unless you can express a clear law enforcement purpose for having done that.
The simple law enforcement purpose is to show America that we investigate any individual who commits a crime, especially those in positions of public trust.
But do you agree with the presumption of innocence in the U.S. system?
Absolutely. As a public defender, that's what I fought for years.
Well,
but that's different than
No.
this.
But Mr. Director, this is one of the reasons why that guideline is there, so people, especially the director of the FBI, doesn't announce to the country that somebody's already been found criminally liable when they haven't. She hasn't, has she?
But that's not what we said, that she was criminally liable. We said she was arrested and showed it.
Yeah, we know she was arrested, but the issue is the photograph. I'm asking you, going forward, I hope as the leader of the FBI, you will comply with the guidelines of the FBI that everybody else is expected to follow.
I believe I have, and I will going forward.
Well, this seems like a direct violation of this guideline.
I guess we're in disagreement, Senator.
Well, unless you can tell me why that really serves a law enforcement function. So you're going to send out pictures of everybody that's arrested?
Lots of people that are arrested have pictures sent out.
I'm asking you as director of the FBI, is that going to be your policy, just to start saying?
No, we do it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, well, the guidelines make clear that I think any normal interpretation of this suggests it's a violation. Look, we're a budget committee, an appropriations committee. We want to find a way to make sure that we properly resource the men and women who work at the FBI. I think that is a common goal, I hope. And I do just, Mr. Chairman, again, in closing, I understand you want to proceed, just so that we keep things going, but it is kind of hard to proceed without any budget. So.
I don't take you as critiquing our having a hearing.
No,
You're pleased to have a hearing, and I wish we had more to deal with than we do.
I do.
And we'll work to get more information as the administration completes its budget. But in the meantime, let's figure out what we need to know based upon what facts are available before us, what presentation is available for us today.
Van Hollen had held up the entire government's budget request. It was 46 pages. The section on the FBI was one paragraph. It proposed cutting $545 million without explaining which missions would be reduced, which positions would be eliminated, or what it meant for national security. Patel said he had identified most of the cuts. He could not share what they were. He said he would work as diligently as he could to get them the information. The committee that controls the FBI's budget left this hearing without a budget, without a spending plan, and without the list of cuts the director said he had already identified. Van Hollen asked when he could expect that information. Patel said he didn't know. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover the record, not just the numbers. We will work as diligently as we can, sir. That was the answer.